is ready to go for a race. It's time to put your pedal to the metal and race through the course. I'm April from Your Turn Gaming, and today we're going to be learning how to play Heat, Pedal to the Metal. In this game, we will discuss the setup of the game, how the turn order works, how to adjust your car, and what it takes to win this game. So come join me as we find out how to play and see who will win the race. So in the game box, you will find 4 different maps, which I'm going to put on the screen right now for you. You can see the different ones that the game comes with. The game actually has you start with the USA map, which is what I have displayed right here. And once you've played the few games of the USA map, then they suggest that you can move on to the other maps. But why you would want to start with this one is it has a few curves, whereas the other one has a lot more techniques that you might need in order to play those particular maps. This game does support 1 to 6 players, and in today's example, I'm going to be showing you a 2-player game. Each player will receive a player map, which you will notice here on the left side of my board, and it resembles the color card that you will have. So if you notice here in the inside, you'll see green and you'll see blue. And then you will receive matching colored cards to go with it. So I have all of my green cards on one hand, and I have all of the blue colored cards in the other. You will notice also in these cards that you are given 3 special cards. So one of them being Heat. You will also have a number 5 card and a 0 card. And we'll talk about what makes these different from some of the other speed cards in just a little bit. So to get the game set up, you're going to take your cards, give them a good shuffle, and put them down on the discard pile. You're going to take your gear pawn and place it on the number 1 for each of the players. And then you'll take your car and place it on the map. So I just placed it on number 1, number 2. It doesn't really matter where you place your car. When playing this game, you will notice that it gives you certain things that you start with. Right here on the map, there is a picture of a number 2. And what that means is how many laps you are going to play in this particular side of the board. Each board has a different number, so do pay attention to that. You will also notice how many heat cards as well as other cards you will get. So in this case, you will have 6 of the heat cards placed in the middle of your car. And then last from your draw pile, you'll take 7 cards, and this will be your hand. So meaning these cards right here. So you take 7 cards and place them in your hand. Now you're all set up, and it's time to begin. So the game is played in 4 steps. You will always do these 4 things in your turn. First, you will adjust your gear, meaning the gear on the side of your car. You will play cards from your hand. You will move your car, and then you will draw back up to 7 cards. On the top part of your player card or your player mat, you will notice that there are different steps in which you will do. The black ones in particular are the ones that you will do every single time on your turn. And you'll notice that they're always numbered as well. So meaning your gear has a 1 and an exclamation point. The exclamation point is the part that you know for sure you must do on every turn. The white ones are ones that are more optional and you don't necessarily have to do them, or you may not be allowed to do them on your turn. But in this video, we will go step by step for each one of these circles, and I will explain what to do with them. So all players will complete steps 1 and 2 at the same time. You must do them in order, but without waiting for each other. So step 1 of your car is to shift gears. As I mentioned right here, you will notice that there are different gears. The furthest you can go up is number 4. But to do this, you will notice on your car itself, there is a picture of the heat. And this will cost you extra heat in order to play different gears. So if you move from just 1 gear or 2, you will have to pay more of your heat. If you move from 0 to 1 or you move down a gear, you won't have to pay any heat, but the more you move up, the more heat you will have to pay. So you would move up your heat. So let's say I moved up 2, I would have to use one of my heat from the middle, and I would pay this in my discard pile. So remember, you start with 6, so you want to eventually have to replenish this, and I will show you how to replenish it as the game goes on. Step 2, now you're going to play your cards. If you notice right here, it has a picture of the gear shift and the cards. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the gear shift on the card mentions how many cards you are going to be able to play. So because I am in 3rd gear, I am allowed to play 3 cards from the cards that I was able to pick up. And if I were to go from my 1st gear, I would only play 1 card, 2nd gear would be 2 cards, 3rd gear 3 cards, 4th gear 4 cards. When you play these cards, you play them from your hand face down, and you cannot play heat cards. So meaning I cannot actually take a heat card from my hand and play it in my pile of cards I want to actually move my card. The heat cards will come later in another step. So I would take one of my cards, and because I'm at the beginning, it's safe to say you can move pretty fast. If you notice also on the board, there's numbers, and this tells you how many it is until you get to the speed zone where the curves are. And we'll talk about what happens once you pass these numbers. So you're safe to move at least 12 spaces if you have the cards available. Okay, so now we are at the reveal stage, which is step number 3. So if you notice on top of the car, it now has a picture of the speed cards as well as your car, meaning this is the stage when you're now going to be able to move your card. So now you will flip over your cards and you will see what each of the players has played. So the green car has a 4, 4, and 3. So they can move 11 spaces. So first they will move 11 spaces. And because they move first, they are going to go over to the side. You'll notice that the wall is slightly thicker on this side, meaning they're the frontmost car. So whichever one is closest to a thick wall, because you'll notice the other side is thin, this car would be the one considered in first place. The second car, the blue car, is now flipping over their cards, and they played 10. So they would move 10 spaces. Now, if you're playing with more than 2 players, say you're playing with 3 players and several people rolled the same number, you would go to the next closest space. You wouldn't be able to pass through the car. You would have to play right behind that car. Okay, so now we are on step 4, which is the adrenaline phase. In this phase of the game, this step only applies if you are the last car. So if you look at our cars currently, the blue car is considered in the last space. If you're playing with 5 or more players, it would only affect the last 2 cars, so it works slightly different if you're playing with more players. But in my case, because I'm only playing with 2, this one only affects the last car. During this phase, the last card may choose to move their car 1 extra space. So if they do, he would move his car up to this space. And this would also add 1 to their speed value, meaning the cards that they played at the beginning, that's your speed value. It would also add +1 to that as well. And you can also notice that on the map, it also says that you get 1 extra cooldown. It is also noted that you may not use adrenaline on other rounds. So keep in mind the green player did not get to play that round. So now they don't get that extra cooldown, but they do get to do the react. Okay, so now we are on to the next phase, which is react. You'll get to activate symbols in any order that you choose. If you choose to cool down, you may place heat cards from your hand to the engine pile. So you would look at your hand again, and you would notice, oh, I have a heat card. I can place a cool down card in my hand to cool it down. So it says that you can do any one of these as well. So you'll look at your gear to see if you have any there. So if I was still in 1st or 2nd gear, you will also notice that you get extra cooldowns. So if you're in 2nd gear, you get 1 cooldown. If you are in 1st gear, you get 3 cooldowns. You may also choose to do a boost card, which also requires heat. You may pay 1 heat for the boost, and you will turn over cards until you have a speed symbol shown. So meaning you could play a heat card, and you could turn over your discard or your regular top pile. And what it means by the odometer symbol is this symbol right here. If you notice, for example, on the blue player, On his 5, he does not have this symbol. So what would happen is that card would just keep going into the discard pile until you reveal a symbol that is like that. And what would happen then is you would move your car 3 spaces. But this is where it gets tricky because then you have your curve part. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But for the sake of this turn, I'm not going to do a boost and I'm going to put my cards back. But I just wanted to show what happens when you do a boost. And I also want to mention that the 5 and the 0 are the only ones that don't have the odometer. If you do happen to draw a heat or another stress card, which is the other 3 cards that we were talking about, they would go into the discard pile until you reveal a odometer symbol or a speed symbol. Next comes Slipstream, which is step 6. If you notice right here, it shows you a picture of a green car and a black car. And what would happen is, this is only if you are next to or behind another car at this point. This is optional if you land next to another car or in the space to the right of the car. If you choose to slipstream, you move 2 spaces forward. Now this car could move 1, 2, but then he would be passing the curve check. For the sake of this turn, we're not going to do that particular part because I want to talk about this in just a minute. But what would happen is if he was behind the car, say he didn't do his extra move, he would go 1, 2. So then he would now be the first car. But because we did our extra move in step number 4, they're now side to side. So that's how slipstreaming works, is the car that is behind is now able to move 2 spaces forward or would end up right next to that car. And if all the spaces in the final space are occupied by other cars, you would place the car in the first space that is free behind the blocking car. So if we were playing with more than 2 players, obviously, then that car would, the closest it could get would be the space right behind the cars that are blocking. He can't land on the same one because there's no space for him. A special note also is that slipstreaming does not affect your speed value for the purpose of the check corner. Now we are at step number 7, which is the check corner. And this applies if you cross the line, which is what I was talking about right here. Had I crossed the line, I have to look at the number, and you will notice this on various spots on the board. There's one right here at this corner. There's one down at the other bottom, which is a 3, another 3 at the top, and a 2. You'll notice the number at each of the curves. If you cross the line, you must now check your speed to see if you exceeded the speed, which is why it's important to pay attention to the number on the board, because this can help you count how many spaces you are right towards the line. You will add the sum of your cards. So right here, I had already had 4, and 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11, so I had 11. Now, had I actually crossed the line and my speed check was 7, you would add the sum of your cards plus 1 if you use the adrenaline bonus, had I actually used it, and this would cost you that much heat. So you would do 11 minus 7, so it would cost me 4 heat to be able to do this particular speed check. So it might be advantageous for you to try to slow down on those particular spots. So if you have a lot of heat, then it might be a good idea if you're trying to do the last turns, maybe on this last corner, to be able to move faster on the next turn. It just depends on that particular aspect of the game. But typically, right at the beginning, you don't want to go through the speed checks super fast. So we'll play another turn and then I will show you what happens next. But if you do not have enough heat to pay for your excess speed, you immediately do what's now called a spin out. You'll move your car back to the first available space before the corner line that caused the spin out. And you take 1 extra stress card. And the stress cards are these ones where it has the plus. And at the beginning of the game, we just put them off to the side. And so you would just take an extra one of those. And then you are required to move your gear shift down. So because I was in gear 3, I would take 2 extra stress cards because I'm in gear 3. And this applies if I'm in 3 or 4. If I were in, say, 1 or 2, I would only get 1 extra stress card. Then you move your pawn to first gear, so then you're actually starting back at first gear. So now we are at step 8, which is the discard. At this stage, you can choose to discard cards from your hand if you wish to not hang on to them for future turns. You'll place them face up in your discard pile, so I would look through my cards And because I'm right at the corner, I actually want to hang on to all of my cards. But say I didn't want any of the ones, I could take it from my hand and I would play it in my discard pile. And then what would happen in another turn is I would add up to the number of cards till I get back to my 7 cards. And I will say that no one is allowed to browse through the discard pile, whether it's your opponent or whether it's you. You can't go back and say, oh, did I already use my 5? You can't go back through your discards. You can only see what is on top. Now we are up to the last step, which is step 9, and that is the replenish phase. And what you will do is you will use the cards that you have in your hand and you will replenish by taking cards back up to 7. So you would take the 3 cards that you had here, and these would go now into your discard pile for both players. And however many cards you have in your hand, you would add that back up to 7. And then the game restarts. So now to restart the turn, you would start by choosing first your gear. I'm going to leave mine in 3rd gear, and second player is also going to leave theirs in 3rd gear. So we move on to the second phase, which is now to play your cards. So I'm going to look at my cards and I'm going to think, okay, I can't play more than 7. I can, but it's going to cost me, so I got to be careful on that. So I'm going to choose my cards, play them face down. The other player is going to do the same thing. Now we reveal our cards. On the reveal stage, I now have 4 plus 3, so I have 7, but I also played a stress card. And so the stress card is played in a different way. What you are going to do is you're going to look at your face down cards, you're going to turn the next one up. Whatever is revealed, if it has the odometer or the speed symbol, you're going to play it on top. Because I revealed another stress card, I'm going to put it in the discard, and I'm going to keep revealing until I find one that has the odometer. If you recall earlier, I said the 5 didn't have one. It's one of our special cards that we start with. It too goes in the discard. I'm going to flip one more. I now found the 2, and it has the odometer. I'm going to place it on top of the stress card. So now I have 7 plus 2, so I have 9. Player 2 has 5. So they're going to move their cards now, which is the next part of that phase. So green player goes 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And of course, because he's the starting player, he goes against the wall. Player 2 moves 5. Okay, now we move on to the next phase. Now we move on to the adrenaline phase, and if you remember, the player that is the last race car has the option of moving 1 extra space, and while they are able to, they can also take an extra cooldown. So if they look at their hand and they want to play an extra heat card, they are more than welcome to. But in players 2's case, they don't have one, so then we're going to move on now to the 5th stage, which is the react. And both players are allowed to do that. I'm going to look at my cards quickly. I don't have anything I'm going to play. I'm not going to do a boost because, remember, the boost adds onto your score. Now, player 2 has the option to do a boost. So if they wanted to, they would play their heat card, put it into the discard. They would turn over the top card and reveal it until they get a special card. This is one of those times when the 0 and the 5, as well as the stress and the heat, are not allowed to be played. So you do have to be careful on that. You wait until you reveal one that has the odometer. So then for their boost, they now have a +1, so then they would move up 1 more space. And they're still under the 7, so they would be fine on that curve check. I'm going to look and see if we are going to do the Slipstream. And then we're going to move on to the check corner stage. This is the main thing I really wanted to go over in this particular part of the video because now we have passed a curve. So what happens during this stage? As you recall, we were back over here on the number 1, and the green car moved 9 spaces, where the blue car moved 6 spaces. If you look at the number on the curve, the speed limit for this number is 7. So what you would do is you would add up the cards that you had. So you have 9 for the green car. And what you would do is you would do 9 minus 7 to reveal 2. Now it's going to cost the green car 2 heat cards from their heat section. So here's their 2 cards. They have to play that into their discard pile in order to clear this path. The blue car, because he had 6, so he was under the curve check speed, he's fine. He doesn't have to do anything else. So then they move on to the next phase, which is the discard. So they look at their hand again, decide if they want to discard any cards, and then they would replenish back to the way they started. Now, in my case, I have now run out of cards that I can draw. So what you do is you take your discard pile and you'll shuffle it and make a new discard, you will take a new draw pile. So now we've gotten to the part of the video where you're probably wondering, how do you win this game? A player will win the game by crossing the first finish line. So the green car, if you see here, has now passed the finish line. So what happens is you immediately take the green car, which he landed on the 8, and you're gonna place him on the victory track. So he goes right here, and he's now in first place. The second car would then have to play through their turn, just how we have the other 9 stages, until he passes the finish line. If both cars pass through on the same turn, the car that went the furthest is declared the winner. The second car here, which was on the now 11 space, he would go to second place. And it is important to remember that slipstreaming can never be used to cross the finish line, nor after having crossed the finish line. At the end of the round, like I say, you remove the cars and you place them in the Hall of Fame space. And that is Heat Pedal to the Metal. I hope you found this video helpful and maybe cleared up some of the rules that you maybe had questions about. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments and I'll be happy to get to them as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video, I hope that you would please give it a thumbs up, as it really does help me out. And if you want to see more videos on Heat, there's actually 3 expansions. There's one coming out next month in February. So if you're interested in seeing that, do leave me a note down in the comments and we will pick it up. As always, friends, I appreciate thanking you for watching this video. There's more games out there. Let's go play them. Now that you've finished watching this video, be sure to check out our other videos. Please also like the video, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the gaming fun. There's more games out there. Let's go play them.